Hey, it's Noah with the Creative Startup. Today we're going to be looking at website structure. As far as real technical information about how to set up your site and how it's going to apply to your problems and such, this might not be the video for you, but I just want to make a video that would look at exactly how a website is set up, how it's structured overall, from someone who understands it well enough to work with it, but isn't an expert, so I can still kind of speak normal language. Alright, so let's kind of dig into this here. So right now I'm logged into InMotion Hosting in my cPanel. So most web hosts will give you a cPanel, whether it's GoDaddy, I believe, does cPanel, HostGator, and InMotion all have cPanel. And cPanel is just a way to interact with your website on the back end, how to control things, how to interact with your account overall. So on my account, you will see here I have Addon Domains 5. So that means that I can add 5 add-on domains to my account at no charge. And so how I do that is go here to Addon Domains. I can create a new domain name. So what I would do is I'd create the new domain, say noahhovland.com, which I already have, but then on the subdomain I could put noahhovland.com as well. So that way it's all just the same name. Then document root, you can say where you want this to be found on your FTP. And we'll talk about FTP in a second. That's just basically where all the folders for your website are. So all the stuff of your website is stored in an FTP. And so you can see here that I have Action Heating SOP. Those are both sites for my dad's business. And then noahhovland.com is another subdomain. And if you go back here, you can see that my overall domain, my primary domain, is guapoproductions.com. So, great. You have multiple domains. Now, I figured this step out on my own a little bit back, but now I had to look at what the next step could be. So, now we're going to look at where do we go if we want to actually use one of these subdomains to build a site on. So how you're going to do that is you're going to have to go into WordPress. So here I'm going to click into WordPress, and you would click install now, and then you would choose protocol. So if you want it to be www or HTTP, it doesn't really matter. They all redirect typically just to the site. And then you can choose which subdomain or add-on domain you want. The subdomains don't matter, don't worry about them. Add-on domains right here, these top. You can choose from one of them and then install WordPress on one of those add-on domains. Currently I have WordPress installed on all of my add-on domains, so I don't need to do that. And also you want to be kind of keeping an eye on your storage. See, mine has disk usage 1 GB of infinite, so I don't have to worry about that, but you might, depending on your plan. So now we can go File Manager. So this is where all the files for your website are kept. It is important, by the way, before I go into this, to back up your site before you do any changes. So I back up my site every day before I really dig into things. And then once you open that up, you click File Manager here. It kicks you over to the File Manager. And let me explain quick what this is. So the File Manager here is just where, like I said, all the files for your website are kept. So the overall directory is home-guapopop5. Guapo P5, sorry. And under it is all this website information for this particular site, Guapo, and all the add-on domains that I have. So let's look at an add-on domain that we saw earlier. All this other stuff, I don't really know what it is, and I don't know why it's there, so I don't mess with it. I just mess with the stuff I recognize. So, noahhovland.com, where's that? Here it is, noahhovland.com. So, here's all the files for my website. There's only a couple in here that really matter. Let me show you which ones. So, all this stuff, if there's an error, if you're trying to pull up your website, as error at noahhovland.com / wp-cron.php line 17. You can go in here, hit edit, and again, you want to be careful because this is screwing with your site. It says, so if it said there was a problem on line 11, I check line 11. Oh, there's nothing there. No big deal. Or if there was something there's something weird, you can typically go and Google these files, say WordPress-cron.pmp file problem, Google it, and you'll actually be able to find the proper code for these files. But the gist of this is all these files just do a specific function in the website. They don't really need to be adapted or changed. They're just how WordPress runs. The thing that does matter a lot is your index here. So what the index does is it basically just tells WordPress what to do when your site is open. So your browser goes noelhovland.com. Now it's like, now what? Should I open these files? Should I just give you an index? What should I do? The index says do this. So if you go in the index here, you can see define, use this theme. You can tell it to redirect. I want it to redirect to WordPress blog header.php. So basically, that index tells WordPress exactly what to do once your site is open. And then these are different files that have different stuff in them that don't really matter. But the main thing that does matter is that all these files you see here are directly in this file. They're not in some other folder. Because when you install WordPress on a domain, typically it'll put a WordPress folder under that domain. And then to see all of this stuff, you have to go into the WordPress folder. That's not very good, because then when a web browser looks at that domain, it just sees a WordPress folder sitting there and doesn't know what to do with it. You can open the WordPress folder by going your URL -WordPress, and it'll open the site just fine, but you don't want to have to do that. So you want all these files right in this folder, right in the first folder here, if that makes sense. All right. So that's the gist of how a file manager works. Now, sorry, I went away for a second. The rest of this stuff isn't that important. So if you're looking like security or advanced options, that's like if you know what you're doing as far as coding and stuff. And I don't know coding. I just understand architecture of websites, how these things are put together, at least in a basic kind of way. Another thing that you might want to dig into is your PHPMyAdmin. So some operations require you to go into a PHPMyAdmin. And basically all that is a way to edit files. It's another way. You can edit files here in the file manager, or you can edit files here in the PHPMyAdmin. They're basically the same thing. Oh, they're not basically the same thing, but I use them for a similar purpose in my little knowledge of websites. Another thing that you can do as far as working with files, see again, this cPanel is nice enough to have file manager. But you can also install like a application here like FileZilla. And what FileZilla does is it can log on. I'm not going to do it because I don't want you guys to see all my information. But you can log in to a particular website host. So like I could see all the files for my website, all the things that are going on my website. And I can transfer stuff around using the storage on my computer. So if I have to move like a big file, I'll move that file onto my computer, then go into that file that I want it to be moved to on the website and click and drag it from my computer over. So that's pretty simple how that works. Again, you can do the same stuff in File Manager. It's just not as good with big files. If you're trying to upload stuff, like you downloaded a website version and you want to upload it back onto a server, you're going to have to do that with the File Manager application, not with this one particularly. And it's good if your website doesn't have a cPanel. I'm lucky enough to use a website that does. So the last thing I'm going to look at is how to get into your admin account. So we're going to click here into WordPress. If I go down here, I can see my different websites. If I want to get into the back door of these websites, I'm going to have to click on the admin URL. So you see that I clicked on the edit the website, and then I'm going to go admin URL, bam. Alright, cut that out just so you couldn't see me log in, but I logged in, and then you can control everything in WordPress, and this is pretty self-explanatory. If it doesn't make sense to you, you can just look up a tutorial on how to use this actual WordPress dashboard. But I hope that helps you guys understand kind of the structure of how these websites work. There's a lot more to them. I understand that. I don't understand how all that other stuff works, but I wanted to explain at least what this is so you can have an understanding and so that I can remember. If that's helpful, click subscribe. We typically talk more about creative stuff, about how to use different methods of motivation and ideologies and philosophy to get you motivated and get you making great art. But I think understanding basic things like website structure is important when it comes to building sites, when it comes to furthering your career, and getting yourself out there. You need to understand how this stuff works. So, hope that's helpful. Have a great day. Click subscribe if this is helpful.